They do have a timeout. Decide not to use it. Curry, way downtown. Bang! Bang! Oh, what a shot from Curry!
What's up, everyone? My name is Ethan. This is Courtside TV. If you're new, don't forget to subscribe, and let's get into it. So today I wanted to talk about Aaron Gordon, who is one of the biggest names out there on the NBA trade market right now. We had a report today of a couple of teams that are interested, and so I've drawn up some fake trades here, some potential destinations for him, and we're just going to go over those really quickly and see where he could potentially get moved before Thursday's trade deadline. So before we get into that, let's lay down the groundwork for why this trade might potentially happen. There have been rumors that the Magic have been shopping him for a while, and we've kind of been, as fans, pushing the Magic to nudge towards, not necessarily a blow up, because there's not much to blow up, but maybe trading away some of the veterans on this roster and seeing what they can get back for him. Aaron Gordon is still only 25, but he's been in trade rumors for multiple years now. He's got 2 years left on his contract at about $17 million per season this year and next year. And he's a guy who certainly has a lot of potential left, probably hasn't reached his full height in Orlando, and maybe he can unlock himself on a playoff team, and, you know, some other teams might feel like he could still have some potential to pop, or just come in and give them quality minutes at that power forward spot. So that would be the reason that he could be traded. As far as his value goes, I think the Magic are probably going to be looking for maybe a younger player or a first-round pick. I think that's about as far as it's going to go, and then, you know, whatever is in there to match salary. Now, are they going to get that? Not sure. I would imagine that they could probably snag a later first-round pick for Aaron Gordon. Not necessarily like, you know, an unprotected future first. That would be kind of too much for me. But I think that's probably about what they're going to get. So we have a report from Kevin O'Connor on 5 specific teams that have had talks with the Magic surrounding Aaron Gordon. Now, we don't know what types of other players were discussed, but we know at least these 5 teams have had discussions with Orlando, and that is the Rockets, Warriors, Celtics, Timberwolves, and Trailblazers. So I've drawn up fake trades for all 5 of those teams, and we're going to go over those. First of all, Houston Rockets. I am not sure why they're super interested in Aaron Gordon. Like I said, he is sort of a younger player, so they could maybe talk themselves into him being part of their future. But realistically, it doesn't make a ton of sense to me. I think they would want to go a little younger. This could potentially be an Eric Gordon thing. They could do an Eric for Aaron swap of the Gordons here. But in that case, the Magic would be taking back a longer-term contract. So I just had them do this just for the expirings. And this doesn't seem like a lot of value here. But like I said, I think Aaron Gordon's value is probably close to a late first-round pick, and then just being able to get off the money. So they have Dante Exum to basically match the contract. Throw in Daniel House, who can maybe be a rotation player for them. Sterling Brown, another guy who could be a rotation player, and he's coming off the books after this year. And then this is the pick that they just got from the Milwaukee Bucks. So this is a late first-round pick because they're going to be trading up from their second to the late first round. I talked about that in my PJ Tucker trade breakdown video from a couple of days ago. So late first-round pick and then basically just matching salary. Honestly, I don't think I would do this on either side. I mean, maybe Houston would do this. This is not a lot of value for Orlando. The problem is the Rockets don't really have any younger players that I think they're going to be willing to trade. Obviously not Christian Wood, Jayshawn Tate, or Kevin Porter Jr. I doubt they would include any of those guys for a player like Aaron Gordon. So you're kind of stuck in a place where the Rockets are not going to want to give up a lot, and the Magic are not going to really want much of what the Rockets can offer. So unless this is an Eric Gordon thing and Houston's throwing in more picks to compensate for that, I'm not sure how this trade is going to work. So I would probably say no to this if I'm Orlando. If I'm Houston, I would probably say yes for this amount of value. But I think in order to get this done, the Rockets are going to have to put in more draft picks, and they're probably not comfortable with that, in my opinion. All right, so here's one for my Golden State Warriors. You guys know I'm a Warriors fan. And this is an interesting one because I do like Aaron Gordon as a player. I think he'd be a good fit with Golden State, but I'm not sure that I would do this deal. I think some people would, some Warriors fans would, and some people who are not Warriors fans would probably say yes to this. But this one here has Kelly Oubre, Eric Paschall, and Minnesota's second-round pick. So I did not include a first here, because they're putting in Eric Paschall and this second rounder. We know the Timberwolves are bad. That's probably going to be, you know, pick 31, 32, 33. So it's effectively a late first rounder, even though it's technically going to be top of the second round, but it's basically a late first round pick, right? Pascal was all-rookie first team last year. He has not been awesome this year. He actually had some really good stretches as small ball center, but lately he has really cooled off and has not been super great. But maybe the Magic can see something in him, and we know that the Warriors are open to trading Kelly Oubre, given the fact that he's going to be an expiring contract. He's going to be a free agent this offseason. So they bring in Aaron Gordon in this scenario, and he is a guy who can, come in and do those Aaron Gordon things and potentially, slide into Oubre's spot in the starting lineup, even though that would be kind of weird moving Wiggins to shooting guard and Draymond maybe to small forward, or maybe Aaron Gordon plays small forward. I have no idea how that would exactly work. But this is the hypothetical here. If you're Orlando, you could argue you might not be getting enough value for this. But like I said, I think the value is around a late first round pick, and Pascal combined with that second round is probably around there. And it's not like Oubre is just like there as a body. Like Oubre can play, and they would potentially be interested in re-signing him. So if I'm Golden State, maybe they say yes to this. As a Warriors fan, I would probably say no. But yeah, this is an interesting one. So here's one for the Boston Celtics. They're in a unique position compared to these other teams because they do not have to match salary. As we talked about a couple of weeks ago, the Celtics have this big trade exception created from the sign-and trade of Gordon Hayward to the Charlotte Hornets over the offseason. So they can take in under, I think it's $24 million, something like that, in salary without having to send anything back. Or maybe it's $28 million, but you know what I mean. Aaron Gordon fits regardless. So $18 million, they can just take him in. They don't have to send salary back. I do have them sending salary because I think they would want to clear the way, not only clear the way for Aaron Gordon to get more minutes on the team, but also not having to pay as much in luxury tax bills. Because if you take him in without sending anything back, then your luxury tax goes sky high, and they probably don't want to do that. So I have them giving Tristan Thompson back to Orlando here. They probably don't care about Tristan Thompson. He's just there as sort of a bargaining chip to say, okay, fine, we'll take some money back from you in order to facilitate this trade, and maybe he can play for them. So they get him back. They also get Carson Edwards, who I don't think has a ton of value right now, but I wanted to put him in just as sort of a younger player, and I think the Celtics would probably be willing to throw in their first round pick this year. I have a lottery protection on it, just, in case things go horribly for them, and as we know, they're kind of in danger of falling out of the playoffs. I don't think they ultimately will, but it's close, right? And so this pick will probably end up being, in the 20s somewhere, and that's, I think, pretty solid value for Orlando. They can get a late first-round pick. That's not even a late first-round. That's a mid-first-round pick that they can get back, plus Carson Edwards, and they get, cheaper, swapping out Tristan Thompson for Aaron Gordon. So for this one, honestly, I think this is a yes on both sides. You could maybe argue that Orlando's not getting quite enough value back, but if I'm Boston, I'm pulling the trigger on this trade, I think. And Orlando, they might be a little more hesitant, but if there's nothing better out there, I could see them making this deal. So here I have Minnesota, and on the surface it seems like it's kind of similar to the Rockets one, right, where he probably doesn't fit the timeline, but if you're looking at some of the guys on the roster, it actually might make sense to pair him with Cat and D'Lo and Anthony Edwards. And this is interesting here because the question is, are they ready to give up on Jarrett Culver so soon? Because he's in his second season, and he has not been great so far in his NBA career, been somewhat of a disappointment, but he's still a young player, only 2 years removed from college, and was the 6th overall pick in the draft a couple of years ago. So it's not like this guy has no potential. He could still end up being something, and maybe you can chalk it up to, Minnesota's system not being the best for him. So they give up on him here in this hypothetical scenario. It's Ricky Rubio and Jarrett Culver back for Aaron Gordon. Michael Carter-Williams is in there just to make the money work. It has to be Rubio because they're not going to give up on Beasley or any of the other contracts. So it's going to be Rubio to match the salary, Jarrett Culver, and then I did throw in a second-round pick just because you might think that Culver has a little more value than this, but that late second round might push it over the edge because it's via the Sixers or the Denver, the more favorable. So it's not their own pick. It's one of those good teams, so it's going to be a later second-rounder. But I think this is, if I'm Orlando, I'm intrigued by getting Jarrett Culver just because he's a guy who, like I said, still has quite a bit of potential left. And if I'm Minnesota, you're getting a player who can potentially fit alongside Cat and D'Lo and Edwards and help you be competitive for the rest of the season and going into next year. So it depends on how much they value Culver. If I'm Orlando, I'd probably say yes. Minnesota, I'm a little more hesitant, but I think you could maybe justify this one. All right, so last one here, I have the Portland Trailblazers. This one's a little tougher also just because in order to match the salary, they have to give up somebody they care about. And in this case, I have them giving up on Rodney Hood because theoretically this could be Yusuf Nurkic or Robert Covington or Derek Jones. But I have them going with Hood here just because I feel like he's the least important to them out of that group. And then they're putting in Zach Collins as that young player that I've been talking about, you know, that young player with some potential that could maybe be worth something. He's been hurt a lot. I don't believe he's played a game this year and has dealt with injuries throughout his career. And he's a guy who, you know, he's an expiring contract. You know, they have to sign him to a rookie extension this offseason, so he doesn't have a ton of value considering the injury history and the contract situation, but maybe Orlando views him as a piece, and then they're giving up a second-round pick here. I don't know. Is this enough value for Orlando? Maybe, because, you know, like I said, Collins, they could maybe view him as a building block, and that second-round pick could end up being something. Who knows where Portland will end up in the final standings? That's for next year, so, you know, who knows. Portland's getting a guy back who can play for them. I think it makes sense for them to be interested in a power forward, just because, you know, he can slide right into that starting lineup and be that guy for them. I think he would fit well with Damian Lillard and CJ. He'd bring another dimension to the offense. So if I'm Portland, I'm saying yes to this deal. Orlando, you could maybe ask for, you know, maybe a first-round pick back from Portland or one of their other young players, whether that's Nazir Little or Anthony Simons or Harry Giles maybe, but I don't know. This is an interesting one. If I'm Orlando, I'd probably say no to this one, to be honest. Portland, I'm saying yes. So there you go. There's 5 hypothetical Aaron Gordon trades. Like I said at the top of the video, if you're new, don't forget to subscribe, leave a like, ring the bell if you want to, leave a comment letting me know what you guys think about this potential trade, and will we actually see Aaron Gordon get moved over the next, 4 days now? We're heading up close to the trade deadline, so we'll just have to see how things shake out this week. But yeah, with all that said, I'll see you guys in the next one.